Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Malicious Compliance. Story 1. Whose tide are you on? Backstory: I, 38F, started dating this man, 49M, a few months back, and things are going well. He is, in my opinion, one to keep. But does live with his parents. Now in his defense, he has lived with them for the last 10 years, to help them, as they are getting older and he needed the company after losing his previous wife and child. So I don't count this on against him, as it's situational. Now, his mother, who he warned me that she was petty, rotten, his words not mine, and overall not great or welcoming. Fine by me, I don't date her, so I'll remain civil, use manners and overall be kind out of respect for him. I've been to his place several times, multiple times a week. I stay there with him half the time, and in all the time I have been coming or going. His mother refuses to meet me personally. Other than that, she's been fine. And not bothered me or us at all. Her excuse has been that she doesn't want to meet any new girlfriends after the one he had about 3 years ago. Only recently the tides, pardon the pun, beginning to turn. As she has asked multiple times if I was coming out to kitchen to sit, or if I wanted to join them for dinner at the table. He had denied the request for me, telling her I didn't want to and that she would need to personally come invite me for dinner, after all the fuss she made in previous months. I have found her petty behavior fascinating and have tried to not let it bother me and went about things as normally as possible. That seems to be working for now. Now, to the malicious compliance, which could be the pettiest thing I've seen in a long time, maybe ever, and I can't help but laugh at it. I can't even be mad at it. So while I was there a few nights ago, I had a few things dirty and I threw them in laundry to be washed, all items right side out and facing correct direction. He has told me she loves doing laundry. So it wasn't a problem. He also mentioned in passing that she was upset once and she brought his clean clothes hung up and folded, but all inside out, because that's how she got them. But he insisted they weren't inside out at all when going into the laundry hamper, so he wore the shirt inside out all day just to mess with her, which it did. And their laundry war was over. Fast forward to today and he grabbed the 4 items of mine that had been in hamper. All folded and hung up, neatly ironed and everything. But all 4 pieces of clothing. Inside out. And I am 100% certain nothing was placed in hamper inside out. She has purposely turned all of my clothes inside out before returning them clean. She has complied to the letter, but not in the spirit, of the request. TLDR, boyfriend's mother who begrudgingly washed, dried, and hung up and folded my dirty clothes, but in defiance she turned all items inside out before hanging or folding. Story 2. You only want me working part-time in case there isn't too much work next year, sure. Edit, TL. DR management part-timed my niche engineering team due to future workload concerns. Workload was steady and increased, but I did not play ball, but I used the spare time to start my own company. Manager was quite unhappy, but I had the legal upper hand and just told them to accept it. Eventually took one co-worker with me to build the company. Last team member is retiring soon and they still can't find any engineers to restaff 2 later. I must confess I have a profound respect for people who do not take crap from their employers. You are my heroes, and so, I hope my story can help someone else. Okay, so first some necessary background info. I live in a small country and I am an engineer in a very niche field. Where I live there are about 15 to 18 PPL in my field in the whole country. Also, unions are a good thing here and most companies are fine with unions. The employee benefits from this, but so does the employer, since the rules of the game are very clear. Clear for most people, as my employer was about to find out. My story goes like this, and it took place late 2019 until late 2020. My team consisted of 3 PPL, me included, and one on our team, our mentor, was ready to retire 2 years prior to this happening, but he stayed on because, you know, CO dependence issues, I guess. We had 10-12Y experience each, we were just younger and more inexperienced than our mentor who has plus 40y experience. I really envisioned us taking over the team soonish. Company is a large actor where I live, but things had not been going too great, for the shareholders, for some 6 months prior to all this happening. Knowing this, I decide I'll not ask for a raise in my annual performance review to show I am a team player and explicitly state this to my boss's boss Mr. V. All is fine and well. For 3 months. Then the bomb drops. One fine autumn day in 2019 I was called to a meeting with my boss Mrs. G. Mrs. G told me that they didn't expect there to be enough work to go around for my team next year. COVID-19 had not struck yet, so that was not the reason, so they wanted to cut me down to a part-time job, working only 80%, that would be about 4 days a week, starting 3 months hence. I immediately ask if this is also the case for my other coworker and if our mentor was going to retire. Well, yes, but no. My coworker would also be offered 80%. Our mentor was going to be working 60%. And I am like, what? He really wants to retire, you know? Well, he is not yet, says Mrs. G, because of reasons. And stuff. Okay, so I sign the new contract but feel bad about it since I was really trying to be a team player and did not feel my employer was taking responsibility for us employees, but only thinking of the shareholders. I also get the feeling that they do not see me or my coworker taking over the team anytime soon despite us not being novices in the field. I immediately start planning for the future. After this happens, I start asking around if other employees are also facing part-time employment due to no projects in 2020, as one does. You want to know how others are doing, right? Nobody else island getting part-timed. And everybody else is appalled. Just us three, we are singled out for some reason. Some of our colleges even say that they have had stints of no work for months without any actions taken in this regard. There is now general displeasure in my team towards our employer. Since our mentor just wanted to retire and let us do the job, there would not have been any reason to have us younger engineers working part-time really. But no, because of reasons. And stuff. Okay, so what to do? I have a family and 2 kids, mortgages and the lot, and this will be a blow to the family income. So I start planning to do some work on the side. Since I am an engineer, I can do consulting, right? My employment contract says no. But if my employer cannot or will not offer me a full-time job, the union contracts say I can do what I want with the rest of my time, and my employer cannot interfere. I also have the right to refuse more work from my employer because I may have other obligations. Me 1-0 employer. I open up my own company. Buy a domain, make a web page, start calling, writing and letting people know I am available for consulting. Of course I checked with the union lawyers beforehand if this was okay. Which it was. Totally fine. They told me that since my employer laid me off and rehired me part-time, I could do what I wanted the rest of my time. This would not have been the case if I had requested part-time employment. Great. I go to work for myself then. Me 2-0 employer. Almost immediately after our new contracts take effect, my employer starts noticing there is more than enough work to go around and asks me to work more hours. No, I say. Unfortunately, I have other obligations. I really didn't. I was just making a stand and forcing them to recognize their own mistake. Time passes. My savings account drains in about 3 months' time, but we managed to cut down on our expenses, so it's not rough seas but still not smooth sailing by far. Income is a bit on the low side, although I managed to get some consulting done in my own time. I switch from sourdough bread to stale boring white bread. Go from good beer to Bud Light to no beer. What you have to do, you have to do. No more fine roasted coffee from the small shop on the corner, only what sludge I can get at the supermarket and brew at home, ugh. But this is temporary, I tell myself. And then it happens. I get a big job and start moonlighting to get it done, working evenings and weekends. And this is when shit hit the fan because word got out. I get an angry phone call from Mrs. G's boss. Mr. V, and we have a heated conversation over what I can and cannot do. The conversation was something like this, in short terms. Mr. V, think of how this reflects on our company. Me, that is not my concern here, Mr. V. I have bills to pay and mouths to feed. Mr. V, this is not what we had in mind. Me, hey, you laid me off, man. You should know the rules of the game. You cannot dictate what I do in my spare time. Perhaps you should have thought it through when you reduced my hours. You think I was happy to lose income and would not try to remedy my financial situation. Mr. V, you can work more hours for us then. Me, I have other obligations now, can't let down my customers. Mr. V, very angry now, you should consider your next steps carefully, young man. Me, Mr. V, I shall do that, thank you for calling, you pompous prick. I silently added. What then followed was phone call from me to my union explaining the situation. Later that week my employer got a phone call from the union lawyers who spoke to Mr. V and HR department telling them what they can and cannot do. And I just kept working for myself. Mr. V is now very unhappy, stops greeting me when we pass each other in the hallway. Me 3-0 employer. 2 months later I hand in my resignation. 3 months after that I am gone. And to rub salt in the wounds, something remarkable happens. My coworker, not our mentor mind you, asks if I would want to partner up and start a new company together. Yes. I say, for it was a great idea. CO worker hands in resignation a month after I handed mine in and we start working in our own company full time. People that depend on our services are very happy about us entering the market as independent consultants. Business takes off. Me/us 4-0 employer. The aftermath, my former employer has had an opening for our jobs since August 2020. Our mentor told me last month he has, finally, put down his foot and is retiring at the end of the year as he's turning 70 soon. They will thus have gone from 3 ppl, in a very niche field, to 0 in less than 2 years because of bad managerial decisions. It did not come as a surprise to me that there were no others available in the market. Since it is a niche field I know almost every person personally, so I could have told them that everybody seemed happy with their current employer. Being a manager must suck. Oh wait, that's me now. BR from the manager. Story 3. Mandatory lunch. Our company changed the policy to require that we have a 30 minutes unpaid lunch, it was optional before. My department requires that 2 people be on duty at all times and we often only have 2 scheduled per shift. We ended up sending the labor laws showing that lunch must be unpaid to HR and they created an option to change our deducted lunch break to INT-erupt, thus receiving pay for it. Because of the policy change, the company is now paying all 16 people in my department an extra 2.5 HRS of overtime pay weekly for working the same hours. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.